Okay, thank you. Right, good afternoon everyone and welcome to the 2021 Derby Homes AGM. Rather strange way of working, but I'm sure we'll work our way around it. I'd just like to say we've got apologies from board members from Charlene Burton and Alan Graves, and Councillor Chris Poulter, the Chair of the Council, has also sent his apologies, but Councillor Roy Webb will be ably sitting in with the delegation, the shareholders delegation, so welcome. Okay, with that then we'll pass over to Maria for the first most important item on the agenda, the Lionel Massingham Partnership Award.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Always the highlight of every AGM. And this year it's great because I feel like I'm connecting up with an old friend and I can finally put a face to an email friend. So that's all stuff. And this year is quite kind of unique because the partnership award has been awarded to a partnership. So I definitely think that is a first for us, a double partnership. For those of you that don't know our two guests, we have got Tracy Cunningham, who works on secondment from EMAS as a paramedic, working with our vulnerable homeless community, and Dr. I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong. Dr. Raj, thank you. You know, that sets me off. It's a bit Strictly Come Dancing. And yeah, you're not going to be the first one that said that for me. But yeah, we've got Dr. Raj with us from Wilson Street Surgery. In a nutshell, really, this award goes to these wonderful people and others that I know they're going to be very modest and say it wasn't just us, it's other people as well. But it was their commitment that recognised the most vulnerable people in our city, and way before the government included homeless and rough sleepers in the clinically extremely vulnerable group, through the sheer determination of these people, Derby was one of the first cities in this country to vaccinate that group of people. Now, you might think, well, that's easy enough, isn't it? For those of you that have never worked with our homeless or rough sleeping community, let me tell you now, herding cats is probably easier, isn't it? They are by nature a group of people who, due to their lifestyle, are chaotic. Unlike most of us, find it very difficult to attend appointments on the right day, the right time, the right place. So basically the service was designed around them, and it was drop-in sessions at safe space, and I absolutely loved the Easter egg incentive. I think that's really quite sweet. The amazing result though, out of 300 individuals that were identified within this cohort, 80% of them had their first vaccinations, and then really not dissimilar to large swathes of the normal population, 44% followed up for their second. And I think it's an incredible achievement for Derby. Certainly Rachel, myself and Robin we were like, oh, come on, government, what have you been messing around at? We're already on it in Derby. So certainly from Robin, who's not here tonight, but definitely Rachel and myself, we can't say thank you enough for what you've done for that group. But it's not just that, the day job goes on as well, doesn't it? And I know that there's been an absolute broadening out of health services working through Wilson Street, basing it at Milestone and Safe Space, and really getting a customer focused service. And I just think it's amazing. And the top and bottom of it is, I'd love to be able to get some figures, but I know we're not going to be able to. But I'll tell you now, I think rates of positive infections amongst our homeless community have probably been amongst the lowest of any groups. certainly at the moment, our secondary school children are smashing it out the park. The protection we have put around this group of vulnerable people really is fabulous. So I've now got to somehow present an award in a COVID-safe way, but as I said, I am negative. Well, it's as safe as it's going to get, but we will be socially distanced. I don't know how we're going to do this, where they're going to put it or what they're going to do, but just congratulations and thank you. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to, but if you want to.
To be honest, it was a genuine surprise when we had the email come through, and genuinely appreciated as well. For me, the last year or the last 2 years have really shone a light on the inequality we have in society, and how we've almost forgotten what it's been to be in that section of society and not be listened to. And so I know Tracy's very passionate about, certainly we're passionate about our Wilson Street, our homeless population in particular, are the most vulnerable people in our society. They don't have a voice. They generally don't complain. They sort of take what they're given. And for us right at the start, it's really important to get them vaccinated early, because we know that they are at higher risk. And hopefully our sort of small little bit has managed to have some impact at all. But all credit goes to Tracy for herding them in, as you said, and making sure that, in fact, what I've been told is the highest first dose vaccinations in homeless community in the country, and that's hard work for the whole team, basically, to just ensure that they came in, got the vaccinations with Easter eggs, which I presume was the incentive at the time. But yeah, thank you to all for having us. And part of that as well is all the staff at Derby Homes who were calling patients, who were bringing them down, who were driving them down, safe space, absolutely everyone just pulled up together for those few weeks of planning, for those few days, which had a positive impact.
We've had more impact and more success in the strictly dancers.
Oh, very good, Bob.
I think it's something really nice to meet you, Raj. On the screen, obviously. I think the last 2 years have been really, really difficult, but they've also been really great. We've actually built relationships in a way we didn't understand before about how the system works. It doesn't work particularly well as a system, but it is all connected. We've got a much better way to try and make that work for our most vulnerable and broader. So I really appreciate the work you've done around homelessness, and I think it's been fantastic. We've got to build on that into the next phase, haven't we?
Yeah. It's a shame it's not shouting about more, in terms of numbers. It's a shame.
You're right, Bob. Unfortunately, it's not a popular subject. But Claire, if I can just ask you, we've got quite a busy day tomorrow planned with the media, haven't we, to hopefully shine a positive light on things.
We do, and I think Tracy's probably engaged in that morning tomorrow as well, taking the press round and kind of looking at the work that we're doing in the safe space, the work that we do at Milestone House, the work that we do with our Rest Outreach team, and also I think most importantly going to see some residents that have actually moved into some of our pathway properties, because of course all of this is about trying to stabilise the most vulnerable into longer term housing solutions. And I think that we mustn't forget that we do have those successes, and we must absolutely celebrate the work that the whole system does to enable people to move on and settle into their own homes. So we will be tomorrow also going and visiting some people that have gone through that process, started off really chaotic and are now happily settled and moving on to the next stages of their lives. Is really something to celebrate. And obviously all bits of the system, including the two that are here today, are really essential. So thank you from me as well.
Well done.
You have boxes. I think you're allowed to escape now.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Right. Now the highlight of the meeting's over, we can get
For another year.
we can move on to item 2, the minutes of last year's AGM held on the Thursday the 24th. These have been circulated. Can we just check that these are a true record and you're happy for me to sign them? So looking at page 1 of these, page 2, 3 and 4. Are we happy to agree those? Anybody can remember? Thank you very much, Mark. Moving on then to item 3, reappointment of board members. David, can you?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. As you know, the board delegates to its appointment panel the appointment of new board members. So this is really just to record and note the reappointment of yourself as the independent board member until the AGM of 2024, and of Jen Leighton and Annabelle to the same point for the tenants.
Any questions, comments, or can we approve that? Very much. Again, David, reappointment of external auditors.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Our external auditors are in the final year. This is to appoint them for the final year of their 7-year contract that they've had with us. And obviously that means that we'll be doing a procurement or a reprocurement of their services or somebody else's for our new contract. So this is effectively to reappoint them as already contracted with them.
Agreed?
Agreed.
Thank you. Right, moving on to item 5 then, to receive the annual report of the Board of Directors. Particularly, I think this is where we start the slideshow. Josh, is that working? Yeah.
Yep.
Now, this is where things get difficult because while the slideshow is on there, I can't see anybody else on the screen. I'm relying on Maria to tell me if anybody wishes to say anything off there. But again, just to repeat, welcome to everybody. Speaking personally, I feel it's very good to actually be back in the same room, seeing people that we have before. I know everybody, I recognise that not everybody feels comfortable with that at the moment, and so we are trying this hybrid meeting. We'll attempt and see how it works, but with the wonders of technology, we'll see, hope for the best and see how it goes. Not to mention, of course, the welcome to the hundreds of people who are viewing us on YouTube at the moment. Before I just start to say, just again a personal comment, I'm quite pleased to say that I'm actually addressing an AGM here and not down the road at Pride Park at the moment. But I think if we could have the first slide now, please. Yeah, okay. Last year, the review that we did mainly preceded COVID, but by the time we were actually doing it, we were well into it, and I talked about a very difficult year. All I can say is this year's even worse. But having said it's real work, it has been worse. There are, as you can see on the slide there, some absolutely real successes. The overall satisfaction is just under 95%. Satisfaction with antisocial behaviour at 95%. Again, complaints that are resolved just over 95% at the initial contact, and 100% actually responded to within the timescale. Given that all the difficulties that we've had during this last year, I think those are not just excellent statistics, I think they are phenomenal statistics. But the one, I think on the next slide that I really want to look at, I think that's, oh no, so down the bottom there, sorry, no, go back again, my mistake. The one that really pleases me is 99.8% of the rent that was due has been collected this year. I think that is a fantastic result. Everybody expected that to be really low, or much lower than usual, but 99.8%. On a normal year, would be really pleased with that. But in a COVID year, it's all right. Maria wouldn't be quite. but in a COVID year, I think that's a fantastic result.
Well done to the income team for doing it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, Rachel.
Can I just ask what the national comparison is? Just out of interest?
I'm still waiting for it, Rachel.
Yeah.
Because it must be an outlier, what I would have thought, at national level.
You see the top three there, Rachel, that we're top quartile.
Yeah.
Yes, Ian.
When you think of the predictions we were getting 2 years ago with Brexit coming on and then COVID coming, it was all sort of doom and gloom, and that how that figure would be very, very much lower than it is. And I think it's an absolutely phenomenal figure, given what sort of was generally expected across the country. I think it's fantastic.
So it's a negative into a positive.
Yeah. Maria.
The only caveat I would put on this is it's from next week that the universal credit uplift goes.
I'm going to come on to
Oh,
that.
sorry. Yes, it's just going to get harder.
Yes, yeah. Don't preempt things, please, Maria. Okay, can we have the next slide then, please, this time? There's other achievements as well. Yet again, we got the ROSPA President's Award, highly commended. The two things down the bottom, the Rush Sleepers working partnership with the council and the homeless there. I'm not going to say a great deal about that because I think Roy Webb is going to mention that in his speech in a few minutes. But again, real achievements, again, working in partnership. We've said it before. I think what we're really starting to see now is Team Derby. Everybody working for the benefit of the city and the benefit of everybody in the city. And that, I think we've made a real contribution to that, but it is a real partnership and something that I'm really pleased on. If we could move on again, please, Josh. I did say, though, we have some ongoing challenges. Looking at that, there are still over 4,000 people on the Home Finder application. Active, yes, active ones, yes, not just, yeah. That's a phenomenal number of people who are still looking for the services that we've got. You see underneath there, we actually delivered 76 new homes, which is good, but we lost 103 through the Right to Buy scheme. Compare those two figures, even 76 against 4,000, it shows just what a challenge that we have got and we are continuing to have. Moving on again, please. We've got some future challenges coming in. I'll go to the bottom one first. Maria said that, that starting next week, the uplift in the universal credit is going to be taken away. It won't all happen at once, but it will be putting a real pressure on some of the poorest in society. I noticed the government today have announced some ameliorative measures, but again, it has been commented that this will not compensate for the 20% cut, or putting it correctly, not a cut, but the drop, the lack of uplift that's on there. Also coming in is, again, something that was put in for COVID was the ban on evictions. That's also going to be coming to an end, be phasing out. And so those 4,000 active people could well be increased. We've got on our own things, we've got the social housing regulation and various other things which we'll be talking on, coming very heavily on the horizon, things that we've got to look at as an organisation to make sure that we're compliant with the social housing new regulations, and particularly the fire safety ones that are coming through. And on top of that, something which I know as a board we're all very much in favour of, that we want to put forward, but it agreed agenda, and we've got to look at that, and we've got to find the money to be able to put that forward. So that's a future challenge that's happening to us again. Finally, I don't want to say too much, but if we just have the last slide, I'd just like to say thank you. And that is thank you to my fellow board members for all the efforts and support they've given me and to the organisation here. Particularly thanks to the council for the partnership work that's going on. But most importantly, and as Ian mentioned earlier, real thanks to the hard work and dedication of all the staff in Derby Homes who've managed to achieve all those things through a very, very difficult year. That's really all I want to say. So I would commend to you that we receive the annual report of the Board of Directors, the Auditors report and the financial statements. Okay, yeah. Okay then, Ian, if I could pass on to you then for your report for the Audit Committee.
Thank you, Chair. The report outlines the activities of the Audit Committee for financial year 2020-21. The committee held 4 meetings during the year. Item 3.2 of the report summarises internal controls assurance, and our internal auditors, the Central Midlands Audit Partnership, CMAP, reported to the committee that Derby Homes had a satisfactory system of governance, risk and internal control. Also, at a special meeting in March this year, the committee considered in detail a report on gas safety. Item 3.3 refers to risk management, and the committee considered and reviewed the company's strategic and operational risk registers in February of this year. The core work of the committee in monitoring financial integrity is outlined in item 3.4, and item 3.5 outlines the monitoring and reviewing of internal financial control via the scrutinising of internal audit reports. I feel I'm very lucky as chair of the Audit Committee because the committee has such high quality, excellent members, and as a committee we're supported also by excellent officers and excellent auditors too. So I'd like to record my own personal thanks to everyone who's been involved with the committee for the sterling work they've done throughout the year and throughout this particular period, which has been difficult for everyone. Last but not least, the recommendation of the report to the AGM is that the report be noted. I'd be grateful, Chair, if the AGM could give consideration to noting the report.
Thank you very much, Ian. Any questions, comments to Ian? Okay, thank you very much, Ian, for all the hard work that the Audit Committee has done during the year.
I'm very well supported, as I mentioned, so my job is made much easier by the calibre of the members and the officers and the auditors.
Absolutely. Okay, Bob.
Right, the operational board, I can't beat these reports, so I'm going to be very brief, I'm afraid. Over the last year, the operational board has met on 4 occasions, similar to the audit board. All meetings have been held virtually, which is rather unique for us at that time, since the pandemic. Each meeting, the operational board monitors Derby Hall's performance and key services, ensuring it achieves its priorities while still delivering value for money. And that's important within the organisation. We do deliver value for money. Despite the effects of COVID, has been reassured to see excellent performance overall, and we've seen examples of that tonight and throughout the year. And that's been achieved through hard work by everyone across the state. The operational board has made a number of key decisions that include the services and facilities for tenants and residents living in our estates. And some of these include continuation of a programme to improve house standings and parking facilities. Those of you who've been involved in the operation will know this is quite an emotive subject, so Derby Homes have really taken this and run with it. Providing grants to organisations to provide our customers with support and opportunities, and grants are a key element, and the operational board tries to be quite investigative when they get these grants and make sure they're not just going to different organisations to get grants from everywhere. So we are quite interrogate them. And review a range of policies and strategies and services that put customers first. And again, customers have to be at the heart of what we do. Therefore, they've got to be the best service possible from Derby Homes, and I feel that the operational board strives to achieve that. I would also like to thank the Vice Chair, Jan Shepherd. She keeps me on straight and narrow, believe me, she does. And she's been very supportive of a number of years now. and it's great to work with Jan, and she got a lot of support from me. Members of the operational board for their attendance and support, and importantly, staff right across the organisation. Too many to name, it's not fair to name names normally, but everybody has supported me during COVID. I've had various things happen, and staff have supported me. I really miss, as my chair of the operation, I make it my mission to get out there and amongst the staff and I go places. And those of you who know me will know, I think I've been right across the board, seeing both sides of the coin, and I've really missed that. I really have. However, on a sort of lighter note, the operational board are now TV celebrities and stars, because we've been the first time on YouTube. So we're TV celebrities now. And on that happy note, I'll conclude my report. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Bob. Any questions, comments to Bob? In that case, again, Bob, can I just thank you, Chair, for the hard work that you put in difficult situations sometimes with the operational board.
You know, I'm not going to strip.
Okay, we'll now move on then to item 8 and ask for the City Council's response, and pass it over to you, Roy.
Thank you, Chair, and it's good to see the Lionel Massingham Award winners, Tracy Cunningham and Dr. Raj, receiving their award earlier on this evening. They've both been superstars with the homeless cohort we have in the city. Can I move on to the response to COVID? And the council recognises the key role Derby Homes undertook in relation to the city's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The Everyone In campaign helped to get rough sleepers off the streets, reducing their risk to COVID-19 and its potential spread. Thousands of safe and well contacts with vulnerable residents, ensuring they felt supported and linking them with the community response hub, and the contribution of staff to the wider needs of the city, providing support to cemeteries, refuse collection and community response efforts, swiftly providing resources where needed. Some best practice has been seen. Derby Homes' approach to supporting homeless people is acknowledged as best practice by the Ministry of Housing, Communities and Local Government. This was reflected when the government announced figures showing a reduction in the number of rough sleepers in the city to just 6, down from 14 in 2019, and the first time that Derby has achieved a single figure in many years. A remarkable success in the light of all the additional pressures arising from the current pandemic. Derby Homes has also taken on Dash's Call Before You Serve brand, Dash being the decent homes standard, and Call Before You Serve is a brand and methodology within the city to prevent homelessness by liaising with landlords and tenants to stop eviction notices being served or acted on. I received a query recently from someone worried that a relative was about to be evicted. Derby Homes arranged for that person to be successfully housed in other suitable supported accommodation. Derby Homes played a key role working with the council to support the Padley Group to relocate from the Becketwell redevelopment, a very significant scheme for the city centre, to Charnwood Street. The Padley Group's dispersed residential accommodation model with a new training centre will develop clients' life and vocational skills. Derby Homes will purchase 18 HRA flats from the council and the private sector, which the Padley Group will allocate. The partnership agreement we have been running between the council and Derby Homes is due to expire in 2022. Fellow members, officers and I carried out a review of Derby Homes during 1920. We found that performance remains high, as we've seen this evening, combining good services for tenants and leaseholders whilst offering value for money. We especially noted the tenant satisfaction with the service has continued to improve, with top quartile performance when compared to other local authority and Almo housing providers. The review also noted that over recent years, Derby Homes has successfully driven a sustained efficiency programme, driven down costs and implemented new efficient processes. This has placed you in a strong position to manage, support and enhance a number of council functions, in particular homelessness, housing advice and neighbourhood services. Derby Homes can only sustain this support because of its independent Almo status. Finally, the new partnership agreement. The council and Derby Homes worked together during 2020 and 21 to produce a new partnership agreement for 2022 to 2032 with a break clause after 5 years. The management of homelessness services is formally included in the new agreement rather than a separate service level agreement as is currently operated. Derby Homes, you've seen, delivered 76 new homes during 20 and 21, and again 590 since 2008. I am aware of Derby Homes' contribution to Derby's climate change ambitions through innovative approaches in the design and construction of new council and partner organisations' homes to increase thermal efficiency and reduce energy use. The new partnership agreement will aspire to ensure the partnership delivers even more in the future, working together with other partners to support neighbourhoods and seek solutions that benefit Derby and our residents. A key aspect of the partnership agreement is that both parties agree to work to continuously improve the way that services are delivered, and that the relationship is based on good faith, openness, honesty, trust and respect. I wish Derby Homes success for the future with this new agreement and look forward to continuing the successful relationship we have achieved. Thank you all and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Roy. Any comments on that?
I just concur with everything that Councillor Webb has said, and just to reiterate that we called it a partnership agreement for a reason and not a management agreement. It is absolutely a partnership based on the best thing for our city and for our residents. And we are extremely grateful and humble for the work we've done together. I think it's been fantastic. We've done so much more by working collectively, so absolutely fair points.
And as a tenant board member, I appreciate the word partnership because that's what it is, a partnership, and I really appreciate that being changed into partnership. That meant a lot to me as a tenant board member.
Good, excellent.
Right, if we can then move on, I believe there are no questions from members of the public. Is there any other business relevant to the AGM? In that case, all we'll have to do is to confirm the date of the next AGM as Thursday, the 29th September 2022. Who knows whether it'll be virtual or in person? We'll wait and see. But thank you all very much for your attendance. We'll close this meeting now. So, Paul, if you could stop the recording at the moment, we'll reconvene for the board meeting at 6 o'clock. Item 1 is to elect a person to preside for the confirmation of chair following the new changes of rules that we've got. I'd like to suggest that Bob takes that on if he's willing to do so.
Yes, I'm happy to do that, Chair, so I'll take over as for the time being. But it says it here, guys, in item number 1, board is requested to consider confirming Mike as chair of Derby Homes until the AGM in 2022. The recommendation is the board confirms Mike as chair. Reason for the recommendation are there in front of you. I don't see any problem with this, and I'm happy to support Mike in this. Are we all in favour of Mike carrying on?
I'll second that.
Proposition, yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, carried.
Thank you very much, Bob, and thank you everybody else for your continued confidence. We'll now move to item 3, and at risk of looking like an old boys club, we are talking about appointments of vice chairs. And I believe the 2 existing vice chairs, i.e. Bob and Lucy, are not only willing but would like to continue in that role. Yes, Lucy, thank you. And Bob?
Yeah.
So is that agreed?
Great.
Okay, thank you very much.
Everyone.
Item 4 is apologies, which are exactly the same as the AGM for Anna Graves and Charlene Burton. And Jen. And Jen, yes, yeah. If we can record that. Item 5, late items. I don't believe there are any. Item 6, declarations of interest. Is anything different to the usual?
The neighbourhood board just started, and I'm a member of that. I'm not sure exactly you've got that down or not, but I'm a member of the Alveston Neighbourhood Board.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Item 7 is announcements from the chair. I've only one, and that is regarding the board away day. It is referred to in a couple of papers later on.
Yes,
but when we did the board reviews, everybody said they'd really like a board away day and would really like to do it. I just really want it to go ahead before Christmas, and so Maria will be talking a little bit more about it in her thing, but I really hope that we really can get a board away day, whether it's actually us all in one room or rather like we're doing now. And as I believe Lucy said, you've done something at the museum in a similar format, that we could do something like that so that we can all sit down and look at some of the issues that are going to be facing us as a board in the next 12 months.
Yeah, can I ask, does it have to be a weekend? Would it be better maybe members might prefer a day in the weekend than just looking, looking at different suggestions?
I've had a note from, well, a few of us had a note from Charlene this afternoon. Charlene is saying that weekends are better for her because of employed during the week.
Yeah.
That's fine, I just don't see alternatives.
Yeah. Okay. So hopefully we can get that going, and I'll just ask people to try and prioritise it, please. Then we'll go on to item 8. Are there any statements from members of the board? No?
Thank you for putting me back in.
No.
Appreciate that.
No questions from members of the public, I don't think. So item 10, committee chair's feedback. Governance, Sharon.
Thank you, Chair. We had a special governance committee on the 31st of August to look at a flexible retirement request where a part contribution would be made to the reduction in the post holders pension. We had a really good discussion around it. It was approved, but also we had a general discussion on good practice on how Derby Homes can assist employees approaching retirement, and Maria agreed to bring a report to a future meeting on the mutual benefits of flexible retirement. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And Bob, operational board, 2nd of September.
There's not much to say. All the information is on, you call it CMIS, but one of the things we do like now is the performance management, the way it's presented. And I think I said this before, but I'd just like to reiterate it, that I'm hoping this is going to encourage operational board members to get more involved. And I think as whoever takes over chair as the operational board, perhaps going forward, it can encourage the board to be more active in delve more into the statistics on this another thing. But the performance manager has been really an improvement, and I think that's the biggest thing I've noticed in the last year, the way that people, it's like your COVID stats, isn't it? You look at them on the screen in BBC News or whatever, whichever news you want, you think, what does that really mean? 50% of what, whatever. Right? Stats are good. And we had a thing about larger homes as well, looking at larger property, and the operational board is I suppose, glad as us that Derby Homes has got this process where you don't move the family if you can, you don't have to. Look at the property, can that be changed to accommodate? So you want a 4-bedroom property, which is better? Don't leave the family. Can you add a room? I know Sean, we've talked about this, but it's a sort of proactive thing. You're putting customers first. And that's the two most things for me that stood out the last board. I think it was quite a heated discussion. That's Janet, don't you?
No, just I agree with you about the performance of it's much more visual, and I think that engages more people to in it. And
I think they're more active now, aren't they?
Yeah,
Questions.
yeah.
Thank you very much, Bob. Item 11, to agree any items from Part C to be discussed. Anybody wish to discuss anything from Part C? No. In that case, we'll move on to Part A and the minutes of the meeting on the 29th of July. If we can look at these first of all for accuracy on page 6, page 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. I'll take it from silence that we agree those as a true record then, and I'll sign those later for you, Jeffrey. Looking back again now for any matters arising which aren't going to be picked up elsewhere on the agenda. Page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, page 6, page 7, page 8.
Briefly, Chair, on the page 8 on 21/121, I have been updating you on the discussion with Jen. I've sent her a couple of emails and she responded back, so we'll be trying to arrange a Teams meeting between Jen and our IT project manager Tony Gardner to progress that issue.
Thank you, David. Page 9, 10 and 11. Okay, if there are no matters arising then, looking at the outstanding actions. Well, item 1 is December. Item 2 we've just looked at. Sorry, item 3 we've just looked at. Item 2, Claire.
Yes, Chair. I wasn't at the meeting when this was raised, and I did go back to Jen to seek some clarification, and I have been able to confirm with her that we don't procure substance misuse services directly from Derby Homes, so this is really one more for public health, and I'll certainly have conversations with them.
Yeah, thank you, Claire, so we can sort that one off. Okay, and beyond Maria.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. First part of my report is as Bob has, Bob. I'm full of you tonight.
You've all been Bob.
I'm involved. Mike has already covered the board away day. So what I will do is I will get some dates from the Museum of Making. I would suggest late November, early December, and then circulate them amongst board members. It would be great if we could certainly improve on the take-up that we had from the last attempt. What I am trying to do is arrange for either Chloe or Eamon from the National Federation of Almos to join us, because I think it would be a particularly, well, time-wise, it would be a particularly good session to look at the housing white paper, the safety and all other things to do with regulation. And Chloe and Eamon are two of the best people to help us with that. So we'll get that sorted. Lucy?
Lucy.
We've just for Jen's benefit, who's just joined us, we've just started the Maria's report.
Oh.
And I was just going to say that the Derby Museums is trying to organise an away day as well. And they've just sent round a doodle poll, and it might be something that would work for this board as well.
Yeah.
Quite simple.
Okay.
And I just hope they're looking for a Saturday as well. So I just hope people don't choose the same Saturdays.
Well, if we get a choice of dates, that helps as well. Last time we just did, we got a choice of date.
Welcome, Jen. Glad you're able to join us.
Yeah, sorry. There was a school meeting which I needed to go to.
Fine. Yeah. Okay. No, we're just pleased that you're able to join us. We've just gone through the minutes of the previous meeting, and we're just on to looking at Maria's report.
Okay, so moving on, obviously I will circulate some information on the proposed away day very soon. Moving on, last week, I think we got a little bit of a surprise when we received notifications that in terms of the fire safety order, the intention is now to lay the proposed regulations between Parliament, in front of Parliament on the 19th of October. With a view then to implementing new legislative requirements from April next year, which is rather frightening in the fact that it's only 6 months away if it goes to plan. A key change that has emerged in the guidance that we've received so far is that there will be requirements now that extend to all multi-occupied buildings where there is more than 2 properties and a common entrance. So that now brings into scope an awful lot more flats. Yeah. We will still only have the 1 block over 18 metres, but we've now got some blocks coming in between 11 and 18 and a few hundred that will come in as multi-occupied. So that now has to be a significant priority for Derby Homes to push ahead on. We're continuing to work alongside the council because I have to agree with the council the framework through which we will evidence compliance, because you have to remember on this one, the council as the landlord are the accountable person, and as such rely on Derby Homes to do the doing and ensure homes are safe, but we need to have a robust process in place to give assurance back. So I think it's safe to say you'll be receiving quite a few reports on this between now and the end of March. Moving on to the next part, it's that time of year again when I bring you a summary of the decisions that I've made that basically change our staffing structures. You've delegated authority to me up to $250,000 in year. The cumulative total of these changes goes over that, but the net budget pressure is 134,000. I've listed them there, and there's further detail in the appendix. So rather than go through them all, I was just going to ask if anybody had got anything they wanted to raise.
Yes, Lucy.
It's a small point, and it's on presentation. The minuses in the table are very small, where posts have been deleted. And I think it would be easier to read using the standard format with numbers in brackets where the number's negative. Yeah. Other than that, it's fine. But I just struggled a bit when I thought these numbers don't add up, but I spotted the minuses, which were, I'd say, very small.
I can see that David's noted that for me. Thank you. I was just giggling because I can remember.
Oh, it's David's table.
No. You don't have accountants and do tables like that yourself. Yeah. The debates we've had over brackets over the years, Jackie can remember them, and that's why we're both smiling. Okay, on to the next page of my report. Ministerial appointments, obviously, it would have been rather remiss of me if I didn't include that in this report. I think all board members now will have gathered that we have a new Secretary of State. Michael Gove MP has now replaced Robert Jenrick. Probably more significantly though, the whole focus and the name of the government department is changed. We are now the Department for Levelling Up, Housing and Communities. I'm not quite sure what acronym that's going to get blended into, but we'll wait and see.
I think it's luck.
Somebody's going to need a lot of luck. And I have had a question raised already, because in the report I put that at the time of writing, Mr. Gove hadn't published any plans in relation to social housing. I was asked whether we'd yet heard anything on his plans for social housing, and the answer is still no. I do kind of feel that there's probably a focus at the moment on the planning reforms, because one of the things that was announced straight away with the ministerial changes was that Michael Gove had pulled the planning proposals that were going forward. So I can imagine there's been quite a rethink on that. And I can only assume that levelling up, again, is going to be a huge focus. So I just personally hope that this doesn't push housing back down the agenda, because particularly for social housing, we've battled for so long to get it up there. The good news is, though, that some of the ministers that have been working with Michael Gove, there is continuity there, but it'll just depend on which is the biggest priority to the government on any given day, really. For us, I just think we focus on what we know we need to focus on. Nothing in the housing white paper that I think we should argue with anyway. So however long it takes to become legislation, we will push ahead with delivering high quality, customer focused services. We will make sure homes are safe, and we'll be able to evidence that. And I just think that's the way we go.
Yes, Ian.
I think the effect of the planning changes the new minister is making would be that fewer private houses will be built, which might mean, if the target of 300,000 is adhered to, that more social housing might creep in. So
I hope you're right. Yes.
Watch this space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with Ian. I think it's really important that we look for openings that could become opportunities. Moving on, obviously we're moving forward. Sorry, Jen.
Sorry, Jen. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. It's only a small thing, but when I read the notes, we don't say what the position Michael Gove is replacing, and just for context, if somebody ever reads the notes in the future, could we just add that in so that it's clear what we were discussing?
Yeah, thank you, Jen.
Yeah.
We'll clarify that in the minutes as well. Yeah, thank you. Moving on to the next part, I've given you a little resume on the continued work we're doing around lifting restrictions and future working. I do just keep saying to staff at the moment and colleagues, please just continue to be prepared for anything. And I think that's how it is now. And we've now got all of our remote officers, with the exception of Brook Street and Sussex Circus, as operational working bases for staff again. So we're getting more people working out in the areas, obviously offering them much more flexibility. And this is where we need people back out on estates. We're in the process now of reconfiguration down here at the head office at London Road, so that we can facilitate much more hot desking, giving people the option of some days at home, some days in the office. But we just have to keep reacting, because who knows what may happen. Certainly one thing I want to mention in this section at the moment, I didn't include it in the report when I drafted it because it only became a problem last week. Just take the opportunity to reassure the board that as we stand here today, we have not had to amend any service delivery due to fuel shortages. I don't know where some of our tradespeople are filling their tanks, but they are finding fuel. Most of them actually reacted very responsibly last week, and prior to the pumps running dry, as I say, very responsibly, they managed to fill up on Friday last week, so that it's given us a good start into this week. We are working with the council. There's emergency planning discussions taking place, and I do keep updating them in terms of whether we're going to need to draw on any of the council's supply. The council have got good supplies, but shall we just all hope that this mess is solved sooner rather than later?
Rachel.
Yeah, I was going to say that on the strategic coordinating group of the local resilience forum this morning discussing this, we've had daily meetings this week on this issue, and the position seems to have got vastly improved from the beginning of the week. All of the partners on the call, so all district councils, the county council, the ambulance service, fire and rescue, police, are all reporting green. They are adequate fuel, they can support, they cope. It feels much better. And if the only thing we've raised is the delivery we're expecting to Stores Road tomorrow. That is really important for our waste service. But even if that didn't come tomorrow, then we get support from our colleague councils and the councils to deal with it. And then we do feel we are on a much better trajectory than we were at the beginning of the week. So fingers crossed.
Thank you, Rachel, for that reassurance. Jen and then Bob.
Hi, yeah, it was just regarding the hybrid working, Maria. I just wanted to feed back. Could you make sure that you undertake an equality assessment, please? That so some people, so I would really struggle with a hot desking situation where if I wanted to come into work and was expected to change every time, I would actually, that would really impact on my well-being and ability to work. But also, you know, if there are staff who might have physical disabilities, that there are workspaces that are suitable and accessible for them, so that we don't throw up barriers to participation as for our employees through kind of good intentions of what the majority might want or need.
Yeah, I didn't detail it in the report, but I can assure you, Jen, that that's dealt with as business as usual. The health and safety team and the HR team working with individuals who may have specific needs.
Well,
I'd like to just record to say how great it was that staff took the initiative to make sure that the vans were filled up. So after that impact on customer services. And that's probably the side of things we don't see too much, and we know they do it, but you know, here they were being proactive, filling vehicles up and whatever, so the services weren't impacted. And I think that's all credit to them. That's the sort of thing we miss quite often, is the praise for something like that.
That's right. It just happens.
Yeah.
The culture is right.
Yeah.
Care about outcomes.
And the final part on my report, to complete the jigsaw that Jean started, we did at Governance Committee approve a flexible retirement. I think a lot of people have worked it out, but for those of you that haven't, it is David that's going to be taking a flexible retirement from later in this month. And David will then be looking to properly retire in the 31st of March next year. So obviously a very well earned and deserved reduction in hours. Trust me, I'm going to keep him incredibly busy for his 2 days a week. The list is getting longer, David, by the minute. And there's also another thing that Rachel and I haven't told you about yet, but we will. But I did want to share it with board members so that you heard it here rather than on the grapevine if you haven't already. To reassure, we are already putting acting rough arrangements in place, and the full recruitment for David's successor will start in a couple of weeks' time, and Simon Riley from the council has agreed to assist me with that process.
If I just say to you, I mean, I've worked over the years with David quite a lot on the audit committee and related matters, and everything David's done for the committee in terms of the quality and the thoroughness of the reports that come to the committee and the way David personally has dealt with things has been absolutely excellent, and has certainly made my job as chair of audit, but also the job of the audit committee much easier than it could otherwise have been. And I'd like to say thank you very much to David for that.
Thank you, Ian.
And a little round of applause. We don't have to do a collection, by the way, until he leaves. So. Hopefully, David, you could take us all out for a drink by the time March.
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
That'd be lovely.
Okay, any questions to Maria on any part of her? Thank you. David, then after that, it's over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Got a number of things to raise with you, all detailed in the report, obviously. First thing on financial monitoring, our Q2 forecast for the end of the year is very similar to Q1. We're sort of expecting a very small surplus, largely generated by staff vacancies and lots of very small underspends all over the place, but nothing obvious leaping out at us. The second thing I wanted to raise was that ever since 2002, when we started, we've always had the same financial system as the council, and we intend to continue to do that. And as the council are procuring a upgrade or new system, we are obviously taking part in that process, and the councils are including our officers in the assessments and so on. But there is likely to be a cost, probably just a one-off cost, but there may be ongoing costs as well. We'll have to wait and see, because obviously it's subject to a full procurement. So we're asking to add a couple of £100,000 to our capital programme nominally, which would then be spread over the 3 years after it happens in terms of our accounting policy. I'm hoping it'll be a lot less than that, but at this stage, there's absolutely no way anybody can judge the exact amount. So it's just a sort of an approximation. So I'm asking for that approval as part of my report. Thirdly, both for Padley and for the council in terms of providing new homes, and indeed for ourselves, we've got a number of things running at the moment. I think Roy mentioned earlier about the Padley arrangement, and of the 18 that we're committed to taking, we've got 11 on their way already. We've got agreement in principle with the council that we'll take another 5, which is the most we can take from the council in each financial year in the next financial year. So hopefully in April, which should take us to 16. So we need a couple more, which we are still continuing to search the private sector for. But as people will have noticed, the private sector market has gone a bit hot, shall we say, at the moment, and it's proving quite difficult to find a suitable or two suitable further properties. So obviously we'll keep an eye on that and try and fulfil our promises to Padley as soon as possible. We're also talking with the council to Homes England with a view to seeing if we can get some Homes England grant towards some of the properties that we are hoping to develop, so that we're not just relying solely on right to buy income. And that would allow the council to use Derby Homes to some extent where a particularly high risk of right to buy is evident in a particular development. So obviously where there are larger properties, there's a bigger risk of sale. Sorry, Lucy, did you want to ask a question now?
No, it's to make a point about the Padley purchases.
Mm-hmm.
I just have a feeling that because Padley has such a good name, that if it were known publicly that you were looking for building homes of this type, it may be that somebody would actually come and volunteer and offer a property, knowing that it was going to a good cause and going to be used for people that they would be respectful of. So I'm thinking of a neighbour up the road who was wanting to give money to for homeless people. And she's not in the position of no longer needing her home, but other people might, or there might be people who feel like that.
Right. I mean, we are specifically looking for one-bed homes. So yeah, absolutely. If you've got contacts or
I don't have any contacts, but I just think it might be worth putting it out there.
We are also sort of putting feelers out to partners to see if they've got any capacity as well to sell us properties. But yeah, we'll take them from anywhere, frankly. Shiraz, sorry, did you want to?
Yeah, it's okay, David. I just wanted to know, unless I've missed sort of reading through here, which areas have you got these properties? I mean, you don't have to answer it now. You can send me an email later, but I just wondered which areas you've acquired these properties in.
We're not specifying anywhere in particular, but we're trying to keep them reasonably central to the city. So the original specification was within half an hour's walk with the city centre, but we are actually open to further out than that. So it all depends on availability, really. To try and buy that number of properties, it's been spread across the city, so it's not concentrated in one place.
So did you say how many have you got so far?
Well, we've got 3 actually that Padley are letting out already. We've got 2 further private purchases that are in conveyance and imminent. We've got 5 further purchases from the council, which should be coming through any day now. So that's it. That's the 11. We'll need another 2 private purchases, another 5 council purchases to reach our target of 18.
Okay, well, as I said, I would be grateful if you could send me a list when you get time of where these properties are.
Okay, I'll have to anonymise it. Obviously, we can't reveal exact addresses.
No, I don't expect you to give me the name of the, sort of tenant and the number of the house or whatever, but just the street, avenue, close, or road will do.
Okay.
Thank you.
And finally, I just want to make a point about the right to acquire. We've never sold the property ourselves yet, other than to the council, but we have had a formal right to acquire request. It hasn't actually gone through yet from one of our tenants. And whilst not every Derby Homes property is eligible for the right to acquire, those that have had Homes England grant on them are. And what that entitles a tenant to is a £9,000 discount from the value of their house. So that is what is proved still sufficient discount to attract the sale from this particular tenant. And what that demonstrates to me is that the right to buy discount is, as I've said to you before, set way, way too high. And that actually, even if your objective is to sell properties, you can sell them with a much, much smaller discount and they'll still be attractive to people. And that will allow us to receive, as I say in the report, around £70,000 more than the equivalent council home would have received to a right to buy. And that in turn will allow us to hopefully replace that property with something of a similar status at some point in the future. So the ability of us to hold on to the resource that we've put in to that investment is much, much greater for us, and that is a definite advantage that the council can get from its investments in social housing if it chooses to use Derby Homes in that way. And that's why we're talking with the council about some of the properties in the arrangement, possible arrangement with Homes England being not just with the council, but also with Derby Homes. And that's it from me.
Thank you, David. Any further comments, David? Okay, in that case, we can move on to A6. Sean, property update.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. I'll start with the usual, which is the Newland update. And of course, if you look on CMIS at Appendix 1, it'll give you all the latest updates in terms of where we're currently at with the sites that are heading down the track for planning or for commencement on site. So the details are all on there, and I'm happy to take any questions if anyone's got any in relation to that. Some key issues in terms of areas that we're working on at the moment. I mentioned Shaftesbury Street at the last meeting, and since the last meeting, we've had a site meeting and met local ward members and been able to give them a full briefing in terms of where we're currently at with the draft proposals for that site. Focusing at the moment on the housing aspect of it, because that's the aspect of that site that we've got a bit more detail on at this particular point in time until further consultation. And we're planning to consult and do all the preparation that we need to do to potentially get a planning application in around springtime next year for the housing part of Shaftesbury Street. So very exciting proposals there. You know, there's clearly a lot of investigatory work that will need to be undertaken to determine, you know, the possibilities there, but a very exciting project. We're also finalising the designs, and this is not actually in here, but it's in the appendix. I just wanted to point it out to you. And again, I normally bring something hot off the press, don't I, to most meeting. And what's hot off the press this week is the fact that we've now finalised the designs for the bungalows on Grange Avenue. So using the War Memorial Village project as a bit of a template from a zero carbon point of view, and we've adopted the principle that we're looking to build bungalows that are really very thermally efficient. So it's not rocket science, it's quite straightforward technology. It's making sure that the floor, the wall, the windows and the roof, you know, loses very little energy. And therefore, as a result of that, requires very little heat to keep it warm. So we've managed to achieve that. And the heating system that we'd use would be a low carbon form of heating. There'll be underfloor air source heat pump, similar to the ones that we've already fitted and that are working really well at the War Memorial Village. And by the time we calculate the energy that's required from that system to keep that property warm, and then we offset that energy by installing solar panels into the roofs of the properties, we end up, hey presto, with a net carbon zero design that has a net energy use of zero. So I had that confirmed this week by a consultant that's been working on that detail for us. So I'm really pleased about that. And that site will be heading in for planning very shortly now. So 30 odd bungalows on that site, and you know, much needed. So we're very keen to get on with that. So that's kind of hot off the press and hopefully not too controversial. Actually, it leads me on quite well, if people are comfortable with me doing that, onto the decarbonisation work that we're doing, of course, here at Derby Homes. And excuse me, at the last meeting, I mentioned that we're setting up a staff forum, a decarbonisation staff forum, and really grateful that we've got 2 champions from the board. We've had a very positive response from staff to that forum, and we've got volunteers wanting to join us from most teams within the organisation. And we're just firming up a date, Lucy and Jan, for that first staff forum meeting. That's a meeting that's likely to be held probably in a way similar to today, where there's a mix of either attending in person or attending it virtually. But I am looking to potentially arrange some site visits to interesting projects for the forum members to, you know, bring themselves up to speed with, you know, different aspects of decarbonisation. And I think at the last Climate Change Commission, Councillor Kerr, we agreed we'd try and get a visit over to Valence so they can see air source heat pumps being manufactured and made and find out a little bit more about that technology. So that's certainly one venue that's on the list for a visit. On to 432. We're making good progress with the external insulation work that's been funded by the Green Homes Grant. So if anyone drives past the shops on Prince Charles Avenue at Mackworth and looks over their right shoulder, you'll see some blocks of flats that are currently being externally insulated. It looks like they're being insulated with Weetabix, large chunks of Weetabix, but it's actually mineral fibre insulation that we've chose to use for those properties, with them being 3 stories and blocks in multiple occupation, just to give tenants the comfort, we've used a fireproof material for the cladding material. And also on top of that, mineral fibre is far more environmentally friendly as a material as well than some of the other products that are out there. And I'll continue to work with Councillor Care on a range of other insulation options as well, through other forums that I'm involved in. So just wanted to catch up with you on that, Councillor Care, in terms of the foam glass and one thing and another as well. To preempt that one. Okay, so there's some great stuff happening here. 4.3.3, if you just want to turn to the second page of my report. I'm particularly excited about this piece of work that we're doing at the moment. Now, hold on, let me just take a drink of water. I've got an energy efficient frog in my throat. Yes, so, we've already covered earlier in the meeting, how well Derby Homes, and prior to that, to be fair, the City Council have done in achieving high levels of thermal insulation across the housing stock over the last 25, 30 years. And we've been able to achieve that by integrating energy efficiency work into a lot of the planned maintenance work that we've done. So when we modernised homes, we've always taken the opportunity to integrate energy efficiency work and dry line them, insulated them, fixed really efficient heating systems, and so on and so forth. And the next chapter in that journey happened over the last couple of 3 weeks, where we're now looking to integrate solar panels into our re-roofing programme. So I attended a briefing session over at Marley, the roofing company over at Branston, so a local firm, and they've designed a system that actually sits within the roof itself. And you know what? It's great timing, guys, as well, because we're struggling to get all the roofing tiles. So what better way than to deal with that by actually requiring less of them? So the solar panels here, in this instance, are actually fitted within the body of the roof itself. And the other great thing is that they're fitted by a roofing contractor who knows how to fit things to a roof, rather than a solar panel firm who's going to crawl all over your roof, crack your tiles and cause potential problems. So this doesn't cause that problem, and they look so much better from the ground as well, because they're fitted at the same level of the as the tiles. Now, I normally show people through my Zoom camera a photo that I took of the first ones that are installed, because I popped up onto the scaffold, and I can't really do that today. But really, I'm really sure, they do look great. And once we've got them out and about, you'll start to spot them and notice them. So we've got 2 fairly large phases of re-roofing to complete this financial year. And I've taken the decision that we're looking to integrate it into those 2 phases on the roofs that are suitable for it. And we're finding that about 70 or 80% of the roofs are suitable for them. Their range in size could be anywhere between 1.4 kilowatt and 3 kilowatts. So they'll provide a really useful source of support for tenants who are going to be struggling to pay fuel bills. And we hear a lot about that on the news, and almost, overnight, over the last 2 or 3 weeks, the payback period has come down from about 20 years to 15, just with the one announcement on the increase in gas as well. Certainly from electric is going to follow that track as well. So that's something that I'm looking to then integrate into the re-roofing programme, for the future. So that will mean that over time, more roofs and more properties will benefit from these integrated systems. So we'll always try to do that wherever we can.
Sure. So
yeah.
can I just, it sounds really amazing, actually, and really good, and a really good way forward. Just cost-wise, are they a similar cost to the previous solar sort of panels, or?
They're slightly more expensive to the on-roof system. It costs on average about £2,500 for the system to be integrated within the roof. There's a bit of a saving on tiles of a couple of £100 that saves off that, but then we've got to fund the cost of the connection, so we've got to then purchase the inverter and connect them. And the great thing there is that we're in control of the type of inverter that we install and how the connections are made. So we've got electricians doing what they do best and roofers doing what they do best. But in terms of the longevity of the panels that we're using here as well, and if you get me on the types of solar PV, we use the one that's like come off the bone rather than luncheon meat. That means the silicon that's used to produce the panels, it's sliced off a continuous block and is more efficient. A bit like the black ones that you'll see on the photo just behind you, there that we use in the Wall Village. So they are slightly more efficient. So we are paying for a quality product, and we're paying for a decent quality frame as well that sits within the roof that will last for the lifetime of the roof. So I'm looking at a 70-year lifespan on these systems, so they'll continue to provide free energy for tenants to up to 70 years, which is great, really.
Sounds really good.
Those solar panels, so I think I've asked you this before. Where are they? Certain models have got it and certain models haven't. And there's never a system in place for people who haven't got it, the opportunity. And I don't know, for example, my next door neighbour's got it, but we haven't got it. There's never been nobody seems to know why that is. Whether it's previous tenants have turned it down, and I think in assisted housing where people are older, they want to be warmer. You know, is there ever going to be a plan to have a look at those properties that have not been done in the past?
I think that there will be a chance to do that, Bob, because the number of roofs that we re-roof every year, I don't think it's going to be enough for us to install the number of systems that we're already going to need to install to get to net zero carbon within a sort of reasonable period of time. So we are already looking at a potential on-roof solution that will be applied, you know, where we're not re-roofing the property. And we've carried out a survey of the housing stock, a desktop, you know, satellite-based survey, and that's identified a further 6,000 homes that could benefit from solar PV. And for each home, I've got the, you know, the scale of how many panels can be fitted and whether or not there's any issues with overshading or not. So that's an initiative that I'll be looking to move on with.
And not on the eye, it doesn't look particularly good around, but also you've got, you know, we're trying to promote green energy, and you know, you've got properties that have got it, properties that haven't. You know, just,
I mean, if on-roof systems are fitted well, then you can control the quality of how that's done. You know, then they're great, and you can see them even on the bungalows at the War Memorial Village. You know, they're on-roof systems there. It just frustrates me that you've got a scaffold around the property, you don't take the chance to use that for solar panels. And even on the War Memorial Village, it was crazy. They had scaffolding for the roof, and then that got taken down, and then another bit of scaffold went up for the solar panel for the fit out. It's just a bit disjointed. But I do think we'll have a separate programme of installing on-roof systems, and I'll bring that to future meetings and we'll set something out on that, because it's going to need to happen for more than just those benefits.
No, just as an example, you know, not.
Yeah, it's interesting actually, because it leads me on to the next item, and we've got your questions.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to say, I think this is an excellent development, because I think, I mean, this is going to take off big style nationally, because lots of private homeowners would put in solar panels, because when they go up in the roof to put them on, they break the tiles, and you end up with problems with your roof. This, where you can replace, if you want to replace your roofing tiles, put this on, and you don't need as many tiles for the rest of the roof, and then you've got the benefits of the solar panel coming without the disruption and the problems that previous installations of solar panels caused on roofs. So I think this will take off big style in the private sector as well as the public sector.
Absolutely, yeah, that's it.
You have money to invest in shares. That's the companies that are doing this. I'm going to do it very, very well.
It is, you're right. To go for.
Thank you. It's not going to prevent people breaking the tiles, but there's also some development going on where you'll be able to get PVs which look like tiles or look like slates or look like stone slabs. So they are more likely to be able to go onto listed buildings in due course as well. So, you know, the technology is moving in lots of ways, and it's quite exciting. Yeah, I think we need to invest in it, Ian. I agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
To be fair, I don't know whether this is referring to the same thing, but I mean, in the north of Scotland, where there are very strong winds and gales and rain, they have big, large sheets of roofing that look like tiles, but because they're not tiles, they don't blow off individually. So that's what they put on roofs, so that they hold on securely when the gales are blowing. But to look at the roof, you would think it was a normal tiled roof or a normal slated roof, but it's just a large sheet.
No, that's news. That's news to me, Ian. I'm not aware of that, but it's interesting to know.
Yeah.
I've got a gale here, by the way, at the moment.
All right.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Just on to the final bit of information about some of the decarbonisation work that we're doing. We've been working hard over the last few weeks on a bid to secure funding from the Social Housing Decarbonisation Fund. There's £160 million available in Wave 1 for local authorities in England to bid for. It's available to local authorities and registered providers across England. And sometimes we're a victim of our own success with these sort of opportunities, because you've got to have stock that's in quite a poor condition in terms of energy efficiency to be able to apply for this funding. But we have done a bit of detailed work in terms of reassessing the cast iron properties around the Bingham Street Local Housing Office. If anyone drives down Harvey Road towards the Spider Island and looks over the left or right hand shoulder, you'll see cast iron properties. And, you know, they're not brilliantly energy efficient. There's a thin layer of insulation that was applied internally when the asbestos cement walls were encapsulated many years ago, but nowhere near enough in terms of what needs to be there to make any real difference. So if you ever drive down Elton Road and look at the cast irons there, about 8 years ago, we externally insulated those with a brick effect render. So they blended in with the regeneration work that was happening around that bit of Osmaston at the time. And I'm looking to apply the same solution to the properties that we've got in Allington. There's about 250 of them in total. Yeah, so quite a number. And we're looking to do them over a 3-year period because we've got to be mindful of capacity within the supply chain to be able to do the work. So we've submitted a bid through Derby City Council via the Midlands Energy Hub. I think it sounds a better chance of succeeding by doing that, and looking to secure, just short of £1 million to help support improving 80 of those in the first wave, and then look to do that for a further 2 waves after that, and therefore not only providing some, much needed reductions in fuel bills for tenants living in those homes, but it's also going to improve the aesthetics of the properties around that area as well, and really will transform that bit of the city. I mean, it's a lovely, vibrant part of the city as well. I moved to there, in my younger days from Swad, and was welcome there. It's a great place. And these homes, improved like that, are going to make a real difference there. So we'll also look to replace the double glazing as well, because that's over 25 years old in those properties. So that'll be a great time to do that. And also make sure that ventilation is improved as whilst we're doing that work. And we'll also look to integrate the wiring for car chargers as well. So we're preparing that. All about integration, as I said earlier. All about integration.
You've been trying to tick everything off on Lucy's list.
I'm not doing badly.
Sure, Jen wanted to raise something. Jen?
Yeah, hi Sean. You say here that there's a few hundred homes that have an energy and EPC rating of less than C. So when I read that, I went and checked my EPC and it's currently D. So I'm just curious about how you've reached, as a polite challenge, how you've reached the thing that you've got a few hundred homes, because there's a few hundred homes on the Austin estate where I live. And if they're all D, that isn't a realistic figure. So I'd just like to just raise that, I just was interested to go and see what mine is D and can be raised to C. But, out of all of the 13,000 houses that we manage, when my house was a D, it's rather bad luck, if that makes sense, if we've got a few hundred out of 12,500 that mine is less than C. And so that was it really. I was just interested to know how you've reached that figure, and is it worth looking at again, or is D like enough of a threshold, or what? Because I think that C is really important as a threshold.
Absolutely, I agree with you, Jenny, and I think that's the target that's going to be set by government, for us to achieve at least C's by a certain point in the future. It's a scientific process that we go through in terms of calculating the EPCs and the energy ratings of our stock. And we've got a system called Auto Evaluator, and that system sucks in all of the data, and we've got quite a strong data on every property that we manage. So things like any insulation, the heating type, the property type, the type of wall, all of those factors are thrown into this system, and it churns out a SAP rating, an EPC rating, and running costs and carbon emissions. The team that carries out this work have reassured me and showed me a report that we've got about 400 that, are D or below. And of course, cast irons will form part of that as well. So it can depend on the characteristics of your home, Jen, to be fair. Is it a traditionally built home, for example? Has it got solid walls? Have we insulated the walls? Have you got a decent heating system? We need to consider all of those issues.
I think you better I think honestly that my house would probably, it was 3 years ago that we moved in, and it would probably meet an energy efficient rating, because there's been bits and pieces done on the property since that point. But as I said, it was just to raise to make sure that we were reflecting true numbers in kind of the board's expectations. So that was just why I wanted to ask you about it, basically.
Intrigued now though, Jen, I need to have a look at the energy rating that our system churns out for your property and talk to you in a bit more detail about it. I'm interested in that now, so I'll do that after the meeting, if that's okay, over the next few days.
Lucy.
Thanks, Chair. I'm just wondering if there are different sources of information for what rating a property has, and you're calculating it, and somewhere else it's assuming it from a different base. Do you know?
Using an industry standard system for this, that's commonly used by most authorities up and down the country, to make sure that we are comparing apples with apples. And even with that system, you know, occasionally they'll change the goalpost to make it slightly more accurate. So, for example, you know, there's a lot of assumptions made about the efficiency of different types of boilers, but then a few years ago we were allowed to put the SEDBOOK rating in for each boiler, and that just makes it a little bit more accurate. So as time progresses, you know, we tend to find less assumptions being made and more accurate information being inserted, you know, for different components that make up that rating. So it is a bit of a moving beast, but it's something that's consistent across the country. So we are using the most commonly used software, you know, to calculate that. Ian.
So is the system we're using, Sean, does it compare with an energy performance certificate, which you would require if you were buying or selling, if you're selling a house?
Yeah, it's probably the most commonly used system for producing EPCs. In fact, I was trained 20 odd years ago as an assessor. We used to be called the NHER scheme, and that was then surpassed by the SAT rating scheme. But yeah, it's not changed much really over the years. It's just basic, fundamentally. You know, there's issues of heat loss. Great.
So, Jen, you can go online and look up energy performance certificates, and you can see the energy performance certificates for all the properties in Derby, if they've been assessed.
Yeah, they have. When they're about
there's a national database. You can go online and you can basically look at your neighbour's energy performance certificate if the house has one.
Yeah. Well, that was the document that I was consulting when I did it. We got an EPC when we moved in, as we are legally obligated to. So I was, as I said, I was just interested because ours is one of the older estates in Derby, and it would encompass a couple of hundred houses. So I was just interested. That was all.
Okay, no problem. That's an interesting one in about the SAPs for the rest of the city, though. That's something that I'm doing with the city on the decarbonisation work that I'm doing around housing with the hub. So we've got all of the EPCs across all housing tenures in the city, and that's helping us target areas that really we need to focus on. We've got some action planning sessions coming up soon to help with that as well. So we're rolling out.
Another thing to bear in mind is if you did a comparison, the EPCs of Derby City Council homes would be on average much higher than private sector homes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, our sort of condition survey, the private rented sector, private sector, particularly the pre-1919 properties, I mean, extremely poor energy situations. And then, you know, there isn't sort of level of, you know, a landlord looking after them, supporting them, investing in them in quite the same way. So a lot of work to do in those sectors.
Yeah, you can often find in winter when you get any snow, which are the council houses, because they've still got snow on the roofs, and the ones that haven't melted away because you're losing heat. That's right. Yeah. So fingers crossed for the social housing decarb fund bid, and if we're successful, we'll start work in January. We've got a year to spend that money and improve the 80 properties for our first phase out at Tannington. So I look forward to that.
All good stuff.
The final bit of my report is the update on compliance. You're used to this by now. It comes to every meeting, and you've got the appendix that shows that we're 100% compliant in all areas. A slight tweak to the form where it actually gives you now the percentage of live certificates on gas and electric. So you can see that we're 100% compliant because we've either got a certificate or we've made at least 3 visits to get a certificate done. We've also got the figure of those that have actually physically got a certificate that's less than 1 year or 5 years, depending on whether it's gas or electric.
Thank you, Sean.
No worries.
Claire, then, your report, Aidan.
Thanks, Chair. 4 areas to update the board on contained within my report this time. The first one is our bed and breakfast review. This is something that I'm working on with colleagues within the council from both children's services, adult social care and mental health services, all of whom, alongside Derby Homes, make placements into bed and breakfast for various reasons. We all do it separately. The task and finish group that's been set up is looking at whether or not there is benefit, and when I say that, there must be benefit. So I think it's more about evidencing to what scale the benefit will be, of bringing together how we place our bed and breakfast bookings across the council, including Derby Homes, via one central receptacle, and also how we then manage move on. Because again, you know, if we think about the housing options service, we have a move on service. Within children's services, the focus will be very different, as will adult social care, as will mental health services. And so there must be benefit in having a central service that manages both the placement and the move on, all in one place, and all with a level of expertise around that housing placement, housing benefit recovery, and successful move on. So there's a task and finish group been set up to do that. I'm currently chairing that, and we will be bringing forward a number of recommendations to the council at the end of January, beginning of February, and I'll obviously update the board as we go along through that journey. The second is an update regarding a couple of bits of software that we have been investing in, Engagement HQ and Digital. Now these are two bits of engagement software and marketing software that we are implementing alongside the council. Council are implementing similar systems. Engagement HQ is very much about customer insights and customer involvement. Gives us all sorts of platforms to be able to better engage with our customers. Digital is a software tool that is very much about marketing solutions that can be targeted. So again, enabling us to perhaps target by tenancy type, so leaseholders, but also be able to target by different locations in a more efficient way. I thought it was just worthy of updating where we were with those issues. I think, Roy, have you got your hand up?
If you don't mind, Claire, yes. With regard to any of these new systems, you've got to be aware of the digital deficit, and I hope that's being taken into account, particularly amongst the elderly population who don't necessarily have access to the sort of technology you're talking about.
I think Jen wants to make a similar point.
It wasn't actually, it was about the fact it's really great. I've had a look through the software, Claire, and it looks like really robust systems in terms of the capability. I really like the fact, and I hope that you make use of the in-house moderation. That was one of the features that I found great, because a lot of the time organisations will implement like social media customer services and then not have the time to moderate it. What I wanted to ask was, one of the big things that can go wrong when implementing new software is evaluation needs planning right at the beginning. You know, before you even put any system in place, you need to think about how you're going to evaluate it, not only as a system, but also in terms of the impact that it is having and how it's being having it. So I just wanted to raise that now. The other thing, going back to the conversations we were having about the digital strategy policy, how will this data be used and integrated within the kind of wider infrastructure of both the kind of organisational infrastructure and the digital infrastructure? So, you know, that just from my experience, those are two really crucial things that don't get thought about the beginning, but they're really essential for kind of like longer term success.
Yeah, thanks for that. I mean, in terms of the first point that Roy raised, I think that this is an additional tool. These are additional tools. So, you know, we are never going to move away from those really valuable engagement tools and engagement methods that are sitting down with people, talking to people in their homes, talking to people face to face. And also, you know, gathering valuable insight through other methods, through complaints and through feedback. So I think this is an additional tool in terms of the opportunities that these two bits of software bring. Jenny, in terms of the evaluation and impact, I think you make a really good point, and I don't know, in all honesty, to what level that pre-work has taken place with the teams. So I'm going to take that away and ensure that we have given that some thought. And if we are in our infancy in that, if I was able to talk to you outside of this meeting about that, I think you're fast becoming a consultant for Derby Homes alongside a board member. But I'd really appreciate it if you wouldn't mind us having that conversation separately.
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Thank you. there's no other questions, I'll just move on to the last couple of bits that I've got. The second to last piece that I have am updating on is around our youth panel interview guarantee scheme. It's a long title, but a really worthy one. So this is something that we brought in back in March time, and this was around young people that were engaged with our youth panel, our Derby Homes youth panel in year 11 or over, being able to apply for our apprenticeship opportunities and being guaranteed an interview as part of our youth panel. And kind of 6 months later, I'm able to update you that we've brought forward our first active member from our youth panel onto our apprenticeship programme, who's now taken up an apprenticeship opportunity in our housing management service in our Allington housing office. So we're really delighted about that, and are wanting to promote that further, certainly in terms of talking to the school networks, which we're currently doing, about how we can promote this opportunity, which hopefully gets more people onto our youth panel working with us directly, but also gives another opportunity to young people living on our estates in terms of our apprenticeship programme. And we are also working with some of our members of the youth panel at the moment to work through and work up portfolios of things that they can put forward, not only for our apprenticeship programme, but for apprenticeship programmes elsewhere. And my final update is in relation to the installation of CareLink equipment across our supported housing properties. You'll know that I have brought many a report around CareLink and the installation of what will be 2,400 telecare kits across our supported housing stock in its entirety. We are over halfway through in terms of the installations. I think at the time, it was 19th of August, we had installed 1,336 out of a total of 2,400, which is particularly good in view of the fact that we didn't start the rollout until September 2020, so right in the midst of the pandemic. So we've got about 900 to continue to install. We have temporarily paused whilst we are making some inquiries around the digitisation of the telephone exchanges in Derby. When we originally placed the order for the telecare kits, we bought analogue units, analogue telecare units that operate down a telephone line. Now, we were always aware that there would be a digitisation of the telephone networks, but we were led to believe, and are still of the belief, that digitisation will kick in from 2025. There has been a suggestion that some of that work might be coming more quickly, both to Derby and up and down the country, but it's as yet uncertain as to whether that work will be in parallel to the analogue lines, or will switch those analogue lines off early. Obviously, there are implications for our telecare kit, and so we've taken that cautious approach to suspend any further rollout until we can get that clarity. We have had a couple of conversations already with our contractor. Both ourselves and our contractor are reasonably confident that the position is as it was described when we originally purchased the units, which was that there won't be any detrimental effect to our analogue units up until 2025. We may need to have an adapter unit put in place by BT or Openreach, but we're seeking that clarification. As soon as we get it, we will make a decision in terms of the rollout of the further 800 to 900 units that we've still got to go.
Bob and Rachel wanted.
Claire, I was chatting with Charlotte, new member of the customer engagement team the other day, the new Charlotte, or Charlie, and I think she's got some brilliant ideas for engaging young people and taking the youth panel side out to schools and colleges. And that she's very excited about that. I said to her, that's good to hear. It's a new way of dealing with it. And right. Second, CareLink, how shall I put it? I accidentally set this smoke alarm off one day, and the swift action from the CareLink team was very good. I was quite impressed.
Right.
Good.
So yeah, it worked.
it worked.
Rachel.
Thanks, Mike. Just on the conversation about the youth panel interview guarantee, which is fantastic and really great news. I wondered any ability to broaden that out in terms of the council's responsibility as a corporate parent, whether we could look at opportunities to extend that opportunity to any of our looked after children, for example, in the council's cohort. Just a potential suggestion to explore.
We've been doing that for a good few years already.
Yeah. Excellent, fine, thank you. Should have known better, Rachel.
You've got some examples of some really successful children that have come through the system that are still with us now.
Young people now, sure.
Young people.
Young adults now they are.
Yes, they're
Lucy.
I remember them coming through.
Thank you. And I was moving on to CareLink. I had somebody contact me who was, Rachel, you might be interested to know this as well, who was being asked to pay. She's a Derby Homes tenant, but she was being asked to pay for her CareLink by the council. Because it's obviously a council service, and I think it's been sorted out because she didn't get back in touch with me. But I just wondered if we had found out anything about how many people might be in this position of having a service paid for them within their rent, but also paying for it separately.
Yeah, so I know about this one, Lucy, and I think this is a legacy issue. So we have 2,400 properties designated as supported housing. And the CareLink programme is to deliver the telecare kit to all of those 2,400 as part of the supported housing offer. Now, prior to that, Derby Homes had allowed, in certain sets of circumstances, telecare kit to be put into other properties where the tenant was paying directly themselves. So it would be kit that was still in Derby Homes properties, but paid directly by the tenant, because they don't sit within the 2,400 supported housing properties allocation.
Okay, right. So although she was in sheltered housing, she's still going to be paying.
So if she was in sheltered housing, then
it should have been included.
2,400.
Okay. Yeah. I just wondered if there were more people who have found in this position, but not to worry, you can pick it up afterwards. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. That finished then, Claire? Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Health and safety update. Maria, are you introducing this?
Yeah, I'll introduce it, but I'll swiftly ask Sean if he wants to update on this afternoon's Health and Safety Forum.
I can do, because I normally do.
Sean and Ian.
Andy, yeah. Both myself and Ian attended the virtual Health and Safety Forum meeting this afternoon. It was well attended, considering those meetings are now virtual. And it was great to see some new members of the team as well. So we have some new people attend today. So it gives us, it freshens it up a little bit. It gives us a few new issues to tackle and deal with. And at today's meeting, we worked our way through the accident and incident reports and didn't really find anything that I really need to report tonight in relation to that. We'll cope with things in today's meeting there. We went through the violence and aggression reports. And we were really pleased to note, and this is a touchwood moment, the continued reduction in the number of V&A incidents at Milestone House. So we're noticing some real improvements there, which is great. And it's also great that with Milestone House, we also noted that, you know, we're continuing to invest in health and safety improvements for staff within that building. So just this week, we started to replace the CCTV and the door entry system. And that follows the replacement of the doors there as well, you know, which have been quite a success. You know, so far in, you know, preventing, you know, any damage or stuff worrying about things. The items that we've got covered under COVID-19, I think you've already covered off in your report there that's included here. So
yeah, but I was going to do the rest of the report.
Oh, sorry. I'll leave the rest of it to you then. Yeah, I'm in a hole now.
Sean's quite right. A lot of the accommodation stuff we've already covered, but in the report as well, we talk about staff absence rates. Excuse me, someone starts coughing. We certainly do not want to get overly optimistic here, but our absence rates are actually down at the lowest that they've been now in the last 18 months, and particularly related to COVID. So I'm adding a bit of caution because there's all likelihood they're going to go up again as we go into the cold and flu season. I mean, a lot of people don't even know they've got COVID at the moment because it's been masked as a common cold. But at the moment, our attendance is very good. So we keep working. I'm about to push out a staff update tomorrow, and we will be confirming in that update that for all staff that are attending for their booster jabs, obviously we'd be really, really grateful if people can try and get appointments outside of working hours, but we know that isn't always possible, so we will be allowing staff time to go and get their boosters, because I think there are more benefits to the organisation to have staff fully protected.
And staff as well. Lots of staff as well.
Well, obviously, we are nothing if without our staff, are we?
No. And staff look after themselves as well.
And look after each other.
And I think the lower rates reflects, that the organisation as well, the staff are, not completely well organised.
Ian, do you want to add anything about from the Office 84 or?
Well, not really. It was a less exciting meeting today, if I could put it that way. But I mean that in a good sense, in that quite often in the violence and aggression reports we get, it's quite sort of despairing sometimes, some of the things you've got to read and how our staff have got to put up with some dreadful behaviour from people. But the general tenure of the reports this week was of a much less severe nature than it normally is. So it was a very good report in that sense. That, but every time I read these reports, I sort of just marvel at how good our staff are at dealing with that, and particularly at Milestone House. The staff at Milestone House, some of the things they've got to put up with, and the sensitive way in which they deal with things which arise is absolutely excellent.
Thank you. Any further comments? Okay. David, A9 NHF Code of Governance.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. The board looked at this issue back in June at its meeting then, in terms of whether we should adopt the NHF code. And at that point, we had, I think it was 3 or 4 non-compliances with the code as it was drafted or as it was implemented, as it has been implemented. But over the summer, we've addressed 3 of those 4. The final one being the one that we were never compliant with, even under the 2015 code, which is that because of our particular board structure, we have a couple of board members who exceed, if you like, the maximum term of office, which is perfectly allowed because it's in our memorandum and articles, and the code itself allows you to do that as long as you explain why you've done it. So as we already have adopted the 2015 code, I'm now recommending we adopt the 2020 code, because the additional items that they effectively wanted us to implement, you've done all of them with the one exception, which was the one exception we had before. So my recommendation to you is that we can now adopt the 2020 code and be, if you like, as up to date as we possibly can.
That's agreed? Yeah, okay, thank you very much. Again, David, board effectiveness review?
Yeah, Chair, the board effectiveness review is a process we go through every year, and usually at this board meeting in September, we consider our collective effectiveness. And it struck us as fairly obvious that as we're intending to have an away day for the board, that this is something that we can incorporate into that day in whatever format that you wish to. So it was obviously going to hopefully be next month, but it may be a bit later now, as we were discussing earlier. But that's again the plan really, is to incorporate your overall effectiveness review into that away day and see, whatever subjects we tackle on that day, it will almost certainly be related to your collective effectiveness.
Well, seems like a perfectly good idea, David, and just reinforces the fact that we need to get on an organised one.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, A11, we've got the dates of the meetings for the next year. We'll all put those in our diaries. A12, appointments to committees. David again.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So hopefully we can go through these one at a time in terms of the appointments. that collectively, all of those of you in these positions have expressed an interest in continuing on. So hopefully it won't take too long to go through them. But if we can take them one at a time, the first thing is members of the Audit Committee, and the current members being Ian, Lucy and Charlene. All three of you have expressed an interest in continuing. It is, of course, open to anybody who isn't the chair of the board or the operational board or governance committee to join that in, and anybody who isn't a member of the Audit Committee, please feel free to add their names and come forward in addition to those who've expressed an interest. But in the absence of any sort of great rush to the committee, I will propose that the board can consider that issue, if you like, first. If we can take them one at a time, Chair, is that okay?
Yes, I think so. We're all in favour of that?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes, David,
Yeah.
next one.
Thank you. So then the next one is the chair of the Audit Committee, and as you know, Ian has been the chair for many years and has expressed an interest in continuing to be the chair. And again, I would very much support that proposal.
I think we'd all very much support that. So. Thank you for continuing.
Yeah.
Sure.
Again, Ian being the current chair of CMAP, it would seem fairly obvious that, again, the board would hopefully support his intention to remain as our representative on the board of CMAP.
Yeah, and you're a better person.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you. Yes.
Then the next one is the chair of the governance committee, and again, Jeanne has been the chair for a couple of years now, and again has expressed an interest in continuing. So again, very much support that proposal.
Agreed.
Does a good job.
Thank you. And I think it's finally the operational board. There's obviously the chair is selected by the operational board from within the three board members. There's one tenant, one council, one independent normally. Again, Bob, Jeanne and Lucy are the current incumbents and have all expressed an interest in continuing, and there's been no other names put forward. So again, I would hope that the board would support that nomination.
Yeah. Okay, agreed.
Thanks very much.
Yeah. Right, A13 forward plan of agenda. We can all note that, I hope.
Yeah.
A14 disclosure of the Insurance Act. Well, there are no new disclosures. So that brings us to the end of the non-confidential business. Paul, can you arrange for the YouTube broadcast, that's the word I'm looking for, thank you, Maria, to be turned off at this point?